Tonight on Crossing the River.
We are in Cornwall, Ontario, at a place with a tragic history. In its time, the Cornwall Gaol saw hangings, murder, and the incarceration of untold numbers of innocent men, women, and even children. Now it's said to be haunted by the spirits of some of its former inmates.
The Cornwall Jail was built as a federal prison in 1833. 30 years later, it became a provincial jail for men only, although initially it had both men and women there, and there was no segregation between the two groups. Because of the very different judicial system at the time, there were also children and the criminally insane and even the handicapped were sometimes incarcerated at the Cornwall Jail, like other prisons of the same era. Basically, anyone that society didn't know what to do with might find themselves behind bars. And unfortunately, many of those people were put into prison and simply forgotten about. So it's not really surprising that in addition to the official sanctioned hangings that took place, there's also a lot of other deaths at the prison. Some people simply died of old age, but there were a lot of murders and suicides as well. And if someone were to die at the prison and there was no family to claim their body, they would just be buried into the prison courtyard. In total, 6 individuals were hung at the Cornwall Jail. The last of these was a man by the name of Peter Belcom, and that took place in 1954. After that time, the jail operated as a functional prison for another 48 years. Eventually, it was closed in 2002, and after a period of decommissioning and renovations, it eventually opened its doors back up for historical tours.
Well, when we moved into the building, the reception area for the jail itself wasn't complete, so they still had a construction crew in here working, and some of them were still working up here in the courtroom. These guys would regularly tell you about strange occurrences that had happened to them, noises they heard, things being moved from one place to another that they couldn't, they could have sworn they had left it right there and it was moved after, and things went missing. And there was actually a judge that stood up, Judge Riley, who stood up from the trial to take a break, and when he stood up, he dropped dead right beside his bench. So people have claimed, actually been sitting in the chair just to get a feel of what the chair is, and have been hit on the back of the head or on the side of their ear. We hear different things. Cell doors slamming, though, when you're all alone, sitting at the front and there's nobody in the jail and the doors start to slam. That's usually what really said, oh, they're at it again. What we were told was that she was raped and murdered by the inmates, and there were some guards here that looked on. And so when people hear that story, they say, well, why weren't the guards punished? You got to remember that back in the 1800s, guards were not guards like they are today. It was some guy off the street that needed a job, wanted to make a few extra bucks, and the jailer wanted a night off to take his wife out. So, these guys didn't know anything about being guards. They certainly had no training, and some of them were probably just as bad as the inmates. And I've had 3 groups now who have been in who have actually picked up the voice of a woman screaming. James Slavin was a man who was in here who was suffered a lot of beatings from one of the guards in particular, and there is some people who have actually seen the form of a big man, and at first they thought it was maybe a guard, spirit of a guard, but they actually think it's James Slavin's spirit that still walks around. And of course the little boy Matthew, who is the one that a lot of the groups have come in that have done investigations. A lot of groups get all kinds of things that happen with Matthew, like the ball on the floor, and they'll say, can you push the ball, and it'll roll. He was in jail back in the 1800s, so he died in here. Yeah, it was probably the worst thing that's ever happened in the jail. There was a couple that came in with their daughter, and the woman was here because she liked architecture of old buildings. And her daughter and her husband were here for the ghosts. And they really, really wanted to have something happen to them. The kitchen is locked, it's not open to the public, but for some reason the janitor had forgot to lock it, and they got in. The husband and the daughter were gonna start going down into the basement when the woman just felt like something grabbed her legs, and she couldn't budge. She couldn't move. She couldn't move one foot in front of the other or anything. And she said, well, then when she started to really twist her body to move away, she said something grabbed her head and held it there. And she felt a growling in her ear and a hot, hot breath on her neck and down the side of her face. She managed to get herself. All of a sudden she got free, and she ran out through the kitchen door and out through the parking lot screaming, and just all the way back into the front door. And she came in and she said, you have to tell people they shouldn't be in there. Nobody should be allowed to do that. Why didn't you tell me things like that happened in here? And she just went on and on and on. And she was shaking so bad and she was crying so much. I actually thought I was going to have to call an ambulance because I was afraid she was going to have a heart attack. This is the warden's room. And these are all the wardens over the last 100 and some years, dating way back to the 1800s, some of them. So you can tell by their hairstyles and beards that some of them were pretty old. This is originally what it would have looked like in the 1800s when it was first opened. So right down to the lights, even though those have got bulbs in them, they would have had candles in them. The curtains, everything has been historically reproduced. This is where Judge Riley died. So if you were on your day of court, you would come up here and you would have your trial and your say, and if you were found guilty, they just took you back downstairs and put you in a cell. So you didn't have far to go. This is the hallway, yeah, where a lot of things have happened. This is where you've heard the whistling, the music, the footsteps. Actually, it's just down there that the woman was heard screaming. Right here, right outside of the cell block here. It happened right out here. And almost to the point, this is where they picked up the voices on with their recorders. A lot of paranormal activity in this cell block. This cell here was used for Henry Segay. The night before he was to be hung, he was kept in here so that he'd be really close to the gallows. Gary Summers was in here. Gary Summers was an inmate that was in here in the 1990s, 1996, and he committed suicide in this cell. It's one of the places where when people come in with EMF readers and thermometers and things like that, they get a really spike of energy from it. Just a couple of weeks ago when I was in here with a group, and they let me hold one of their meters, and as soon as I said Gary's name, it just went from right off the end. And they did pick up some readings in here from Henry Segay. Now the pictures that you were looking at the front are actually pictures that I took in this cell before the mannequin was in there. They're actually 3 seconds apart. They're all in a sequence. They're 3 seconds apart. And they were all blank until the last two that have the big glare, and then it went blank again. So this is the kitchen. Like I said, it is off limits because they found some asbestos, so they're trying to clean it up and paint, but she had pushed the door and got in there, and then there's a stairs that goes down into the basement where there is a solitary confinement cell that was used. This is the new section that was added on to provide a female cell block. There's actually picked up a lot of voices from here, and it's always a woman's voice that they hear from here. they're saying lock it, something about whether they mean to lock the door or it's a locket or something, but it's always been a woman's voice that they've picked up in here. And this is the nurses' station. A lot of violence went on in here. There was people, the nurses were raped. Not a nice place to be. I've had people on my tours that have actually walked out of here because they step in and they start feeling sick. They have to leave. The most active place down here is the hallway. Probably the place where they get the most orbs, but most people who have been sick down here, people who have gotten massive headaches and just walk out of here and it's gone. And they would take them up this spiral staircase, which goes up 3 floors. Trying to think of, you know, a guy, an inmate and 2 guards climbing 3 floors up. And at the top, you open the door and you're right beside the judge.
Drew and I first decided to tackle the courtroom. This is an area of the building where a lot of claims of black shadows have been caught on film.
Did you hear that?
I did. Sounded like it came from back behind us.
You're here, Matthew. We mean you no harm. Play some games with you, if you'd like. I have a pretty fancy pen here. I think you might find interesting. I'll put it right here on the railing. If you'd like to see it, you're more than welcome to play with it. It won't harm you in any way. I won't harm you in any way. My friend Scott has no interest in harming you. So if you want to come play, feel free. Are you going to go over and sit in that judge's chair?
We didn't know it at the time, but when we reviewed the footage of our trigger setup, we actually caught some sort of light anomaly.
Are you going to go over and sit in that judge's chair? Are you going to go over and sit in that judge's chair?
Yeah.
I wonder how he feels about that.
Yeah, I wonder how he does feel about that. Maybe you could let us know. We've heard stories that you haven't liked it. You've actually struck people sitting in this chair. If you don't like me sitting in the chair, maybe you could do the same thing.
Your Honor, in your chair, I can see how I'm sitting. How do you feel when you're sitting in your chair? See what it's like?
Yeah, that's definitely cars.
I'm sitting up in the judge's chair. I've got a flashlight. Move the pen. There's nobody here. We'll be in the other room. If you'd like to play with it. You got it lined up dead center, type thing, pointing at
Yep. All right, so just recording that this is the location that we're leaving it in. And let's see if it stays that way. I was thinking this room here, those are just, there's just a washroom and whatnot, but this room they said there was claims of activity.
Michelle and I really wanted to do our first vigil in the hallway where this former female prisoner had been murdered.
Okay. All right. PvP. Is there a lady here with us?
Were you murdered here? Who hurt you?
People say that they hear her screaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were one of the men that attacked this woman, you're a coward and a bastard, and I don't think I can even think of enough evil words to describe an act like that. And as a guard, to stand there while that happened.
No better than the men that did it. So you got 2 women here now.
Yeah.
You're so brave.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Why'd you confront us?
Kathy and I were sitting at the top of the stairs in the hall where there was a woman murdered. And while we were sitting there, down the hallway in front of us, in the dark corridor, I saw a light all of a sudden.
There we have it.
I thought I just saw a light down there. Just a quick
In the doorway?
flash. Yeah, but down further, like at the
Oh,
end. Did you
wow,
see it?
an orb just went down right in front of the camera. Like,
Close?
I didn't see anything.
Might have just been my eyes, but
So you saw light down in the hallway
Yeah.
area. That's supposed to be the most active area in the building.
oh really?
Yeah.
Huh. So maybe it wasn't just my eyes then. Is there anyone down there at the end of the hallway? I thought I saw a light. Was that you? Prove to me it wasn't just me seeing things. That would be awesome.
Just think, she died. That violence happened like right here.
I know. Just thinking about it is unsettling in itself without having any activity happening per se.
That a woman was attacked, that anyone is attacked like that is bad enough.
Yeah.
But to know that you're being attacked and to see guards standing there doing nothing.
Yeah. These gotta be the guys. That was a really loud footstep.
Yeah.
And at one point we heard a really loud noise from in the cell. We couldn't figure out what it was. We couldn't figure out what caused it. We just don't know what caused that sound.
I believe I'm hearing something. If that's you, could you try and talk a little louder?
That's me.
That's just shadows, cars.
Mhm.
It's really hard to claim it as anything else.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the...
Actually, I was gonna say in about 1 minute we switch. Because if they want to do like basically the same location 4 times with every
Oh, switch with the
conversation.
girls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Switch location.
I just have to check the pen.
Yeah, we'll do that. Just give us another 45 seconds.
We're about to leave. If you want to communicate, this is your chance. saying she likes it, or she believes you like it when people sing to you. I was willing to sing.
So Drew and I spent a little bit of time in the warden's room, but unfortunately, absolutely nothing happened in there. So we decided it was time to move on and try and investigate somewhere else. All right, we're gonna go check and see if the pen's moved.
We can walk up together. Doesn't look like it's moved.
Nope. Nope, it's in the exact spot we left it.
Now where are we hooking up with that?
Did you hear that? It was 8. Did you hear that? It was 8. Did you hear that?
That was not upstairs.
That was dead down there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Hello, is anyone down there? Can you make that noise again? Mm-hmm. There's something. We started hearing noises to our left, and Kathy and I decided we'd go investigate. And we realized that we were in the hallway outside of the kitchen, which is where a woman had claimed that she had been attacked by some sort of spirit or force.
We're in the kitchen area where the woman was attacked, where she felt her legs grab. Oh, shoot.
That's kind of even creepier.
You can't go in there. Oh my god, I got chills. Oh, it's freezing in this hallway.
Yeah, compared to the rest of the building.
It's really, really cold.
Seriously.
It's freezing in this hallway outside the kitchen area where the woman was attacked and where we just heard footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
Really definite temperature difference. Is there anyone here with us?
Kind of seemed like it was even from the kitchen area.
Yeah.
Because before we came down here, before I knew how narrow, or not narrow, how short this hallway was, it sounded like it was a little further away.
Yeah.
So coming around the corner and seeing how short this is makes me feel like it's coming from in there. And
Are you the person who attacked the visitor that came here and scared that woman so bad? Who are you? Maybe you're one of the cowards that attacked that poor woman and murdered her and raped her.
the attack that happened to that lady, that definitely sounds like, could potentially be the spirit of one of the men who raped and murdered that woman. I mean,
Grabbing her legs,
yeah, the
grabbing
way
her face.
when Barb was describing it, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So grab one of us.
We did an EVP session in the hallway outside the kitchen, and we didn't hear anything at the time, but when I reviewed the audio evidence, I heard what sounded like a woman's voice saying, "Hide."
Doesn't feel as cold in here now.
No, when we first came around, it was
It's freezing.
Mm-hmm. It's quite warm now, actually.
Maybe scared him away, eh?
I think so.
Can't do women. Just to run away.
Huh?
Well, if you're one of the guys who attacked that woman, I hope you died here.
Drew and I sat down in general population, and right away we started hearing these sounds.
Kathy and Drew in the general cell block, holding area.
Yeah.
And apparently some things have happened up here. So, is there anyone here with us?
did. We'll see if there's anything that could make a noise over there like that, like that.
We're not guards or judges or police or anything. Just want to talk. What the hell is that? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What was that? Hearing noises in different parts. But that last one was coming from that way.
I was talking to Drew, and at one point this light just popped on and popped off.
I said, did anything happen up there? And she said, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, a light just flashed right to your right in the cell behind you. I wonder if that was...
You got anything to say? We're here to listen. Yeah, it's a panel. Well, no, it's not. Nothing here that would make that noise.
We heard it twice.
Yeah.
This is the newer part of the prison.
Coming up on Crossing the River.
I could have swore I just heard a man's voice say, go.